I don't want to see anybody in sports get hurt except Deshaun Watson. That's fine. He can tear his ACL right off,
right?
Have it pop out of his leg.
Exactly, all the damage he did. Oh my God.
All right, welcome back to another episode of What Are They Going to Say Now? This is Jay and Tony here, and we have a lot to talk about since our last episode. A lot has happened in across the sports world in general. Mm-hmm. Starting out was yesterday, Sunday morning here in the U.S. We had maybe the best or the wildest World Cup final in history, at least in modern history that I can remember. We've had some real snoozers in that regard, and it was built up perfectly. It was Argentina and Messi against France and Mbappe. You got Messi's often considered the GOAT of the sport by many. Some older folks would probably say, hey, what about Pele? But regardless, he's in that conversation, and it's, widely considered to be the case. And then you have Mbappe, who's only 23, the young star, and he's incredible. You would probably say overall he's the best soccer player on the planet right now. And there's a reason, you don't get $600+ million contracts for nothing. But I mean, what an amazing game. It was actually boring for a while. I mean, Argentina went up early and then they went up 2-0. And, my group of friends, despite us rooting for, cheering for Argentina, we're like, let's hope France puts a goal in and makes this interesting, because this is kind of boring right now because they're just trying to hold serve with that 2-0 lead. And it gets into the 70-something minute, and you're like, man, okay, well, this is just going to run its course. Then all of a sudden, before you know it, it's 2-2 and game on. Wow. And nice comeback by France. And then it goes to OT, and Argentina goes up again, 3-2. And then you're like, okay, they're just going to hold on. And with not that much time left, they commit a very obvious foul in the penalty box, and Mbappe makes the penalty, tie game. And I mean, that's already kind of a wild sequence of events as it is, with the time and the pressure and the stage. Almost an unheralded part of it was, and he's not unheralded, was Argentina's keeper. There was about 30 seconds left, and France almost wins the game. 30 seconds left in OT. And they go down, they take the shot right there, and he practically does the splits to stick his right leg out and deflect the shot, which was a really good shot, and basically save the day. Then they go to penalty kicks. Messi makes his first one, and I believe Mbappe makes his, and then Argentina makes her next one, and then France gets blocked, and that's huge. All of a sudden, you have that advantage, especially followed by Argentina making their next shot. So now it's not a must make, but it kind of is. And he misses the goal. Now, granted, the keeper chose correctly anyway, so even if it had been on goal, it would have been blocked. Yeah. But at that point, it was not completely over, but pretty much over. And then, Argentina makes their fourth one, and it's over. Wow. And I mean, what a wild finish for any game, but the fact that, two of the all-time greats, I mean, Mbappe's young, but he's going to be an all-time great, playing together head-to-head, it lived up to the billing, and just what a game. If you think soccer is boring and you watch that game, at least the second half beyond of that game, then you're never going to like soccer at all, and that's fine. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but just one of the all-time great finals or championships in any sport. I can't think of a game. I can't think of like an NBA finals game where both sides were going off, like the star player. Messi had 2 goals, Mbappe had 3, and I can't think of an equivalent, because it would be like the Steph Curry game 4 against someone else doing it on the other side. I guess maybe during 2017 there were some crazy games where LeBron and Kyrie were going off, and Steph and KD were going off, I believe, early in that series.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like some of the craziest basketball you've ever seen. So that's as close as I can think, but it wasn't an elimination game. Whereas this is the game. It's all on the line right here. So it'd have to be like a game 7 between, in a different sport or the Super Bowl. We've seen some top stars in the Super Bowl, but we never saw like a lot of this conference, but you didn't see Brady and Manning head to head in the Super Bowl because
peak of their powers.
Yeah. And just going back and forth. So anyway, really, really amazing game. So
yeah. And I mean, it just gives us so much hope for that French team, right? Mbappe is so young. Like, just imagine him. I mean, well, he did get a long contract, like you said, and it's getting paid boatloads. But
it's not even that long. It's just huge.
Oh, really? Oh, it's just huge. 600 million, did you say?
Yeah. I don't know how many years it is. It's not that many.
Wow. But yeah, I mean, I feel like he's going to be on that stage for years to come. So this was a good, and against Messi also, which was pretty incredible. So has Messi said whether this is going to be his last run or if he's going to continue?
He said before the World Cup, this is probably his last one.
Probably it.
Who knows if he changes his mind? He's 35. He'll be 39. Yeah. He's going to Miami, doing the MLS thing. And I have a feeling he's done because why not just go out on top as far as international?
Yeah,
I mean, there's going to be more international play, but as far as World Cup play goes. So I was happy to see him finally check that box because he never won one. So
that's great, man. Yeah, I tuned in for a bit when it was 2-0, and I was like, seems like Argentina's got this. Like you said, they were kind of holding serve, and it's kind of boring, to be completely honest with you.
No, it was boring until it really, really wasn't.
Right. And then, to hear what happened after that, I'm like, oh man, I wish I could have caught the end of that. But hearing you describe it was cool, and I'm just glad it was exciting, like you said, and there was some drama, and I mean, can't ask for more than that in the finals match. So
right. Okay, moving on. A lot happened in the NBA since our last Tuesday when we had our episode. A lot happened. A lot of bad things happened from certain points of view.
Ooh, yep.
So
not good.
Yeah, Steph Curry kind of gets his arm grabbed. It was just it wasn't like a dirty intentional thing. It was just one of those things that happens. And sublimation, I'm going to mispronounce it, of his shoulder, which kind of means a partial tear.
There's an X in there, I think. Subluxation? Something like that.
Yeah. Subluxation?
I believe so.
And, they said they're going to reevaluate in 2 weeks. He could be back after missing 10 games. I'm going to call it 15 at least. They're not going to mess around with that. And really a bad time for the Warriors. The Warriors are just starting a road trip. And, we were really high the last time we spoke about this.
Boston,
the Warriors had just beaten Boston. And we said, they showed they can get up and do it when they want to. They then go to Milwaukee and just lay an egg. Yeah. And it was a complete buzzkill after the Boston game, Just a horrible, horrible game.
Yeah.
And then they're playing Indiana. Curry's on fire. He's got 38 on 19 attempts, and then he gets hurt.
Yeah.
And they lose that game. And they still have a really tough schedule coming up. They're, at the time, 14 and 15 at the time of the injury. And they need to be careful here. The Warriors, I don't want to be dramatic here, but if Curry misses 15, 16 games, they need to, say it's 15 games. I texted you and I said, if the Warriors can go 6-9 during this stretch, I'd be happy without Steph, especially as Wiggins is still out. You would be elated.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure when Wiggins comes back, but they just need to not completely tank the entire season away. And Steph can come back and they can go on a run. The conference is deep, but it's also no one's running away with it. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm also just not optimistic about this team right now until they add a vet or something, because while the win against Boston was great, that loss against Milwaukee before Steph got hurt was very, very concerning. It was like, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, Milwaukee was at home. I'm just trying to give caveats. It was bad, but Milwaukee was at home.
And I will say, missing Wiggins, big deal in that matchup.
Right. So, I mean, that's not the matchup we would see if they were to meet later in the season, right? Or even potentially in the finals. Like, I feel like
It still wasn't good.
No, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Yeah, and you know, the Curry thing is it's definitely not ideal. It was a weird play. Like I know you talked about it a little bit, but it didn't look like anything out of the ordinary happened. He just kind of stuck his arm out, and it kind of got caught a little bit, but not anything to where it like pulled or anything like that. I think it was just like a little tweak, and then you notice him afterwards holding it. That's where I got concerned.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, I mean,
is that a tear?
It's a partial dislocation of the shoulder.
Right.
It like slips out a little bit and slips right back in.
Right.
And if you don't let it heal properly, it'll keep happening over and over again.
Oh yeah. And he'll never
I have a friend who had this on both shoulders, and he had from playing football, and he had to have surgery on both of them eventually because it just kept popping out all the time, like constantly.
And that's the thing that the Warriors are really lucky about, is that surgery's not needed so far. I mean, they're going to see how the rest goes, reevaluate, hopefully, you know, just kind of some rest.
But if you don't let it heal all the way and it happens again,
right,
that is when surgery time is likely. So they really need to be cautious. That's why I said he's going to miss 15 games, maybe more.
I think
they're going to
be cautious.
Side.
They have to be cautious because if they're playing the long game, you know, even if they're going to drop down, if they want to make a run, you know, towards the middle / end of the season, they're going to need Steph to be at full power, and Wiggins and everybody else. So.
And now this stretch coming up is time for Jordan Poole to earn that contract.
Hey, if last night's an indication,
got the money, and yes, that he stepped up big time with 43 points last night against Toronto. Yeah. On the road, the Warriors got their third road win, making them 3-14.
Yeah,
and Toronto's struggling and deciding if they're going to go into tank mode or not. You know, because they have Scotty Barnes, who's young, and you know, I actually think Toronto is going to give it 10 more games, and depending how those go, then they're going to decide to
Wembanyama. Or bust. I agree. I mean, they're definitely struggling. Both teams actually were kind of, you know, because the Warriors had been struggling a little bit too, losing to Indiana and then in Milwaukee before that. So it seemed like both teams wanted that win to kind of get out of the rut they were in, but it was a really good win for the Warriors. I gotta say that. I mean,
and that drops Toronto to 13-17, so they're right on that. That cusp.
Yeah. So, but good win. You know, Jordan Poole played really good. DiVincenzo, I've been really impressed with. Kind of like not flashy, but just kind of doing all the little stuff, hitting shots. You know, moving the ball around. He played really good against Milwaukee too. I think I texted you during that game. I think he went 5 for 5 from 3 in the first quarter, maybe something like he's starting to.
DiVincenzo's
look for a shot.
Kind of our replacement for Bielitsa, losing Bielitsa from last year. You know,
right?
And not just because he's also like a white Euro guy. That's not the only reason. But I mean, it's true. It's true.
Nedovic. Who else?
But it's a very similar role, and it's like apparently it's the white Euro position in the Warriors roster that they always need.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, the good thing about that is, you know, some of these guys are playing a lot of minutes right now with all the injuries. So if they can get in a rhythm, then when the big guys come back, you know, you got that bench to plug in that has confidence and's been on a roll. So that could be good. But it's going to be a tough stretch. You know, we have the Knicks and the Nets next, so that should be interesting.
The Knicks, who are on a 7-game win streak now, and 17-13 in the East.
I'm hearing all about it.
Seems like that duo of Randall and Brunson is really starting to gel.
Yeah.
So that's cool to see.
Hey, maybe the Warriors can go in and surprise them, you know? I mean, I know that they have been playing well. I don't know. I feel like that win in Toronto was like a collective confidence boost. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Also a sigh of relief. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah, exactly. Especially that road record's terrible. So
when do the Warriors play the Knicks? Coming up, right?
Tomorrow night.
You gonna try and go? See if you get some last second tickets, or are they all super expensive?
I mean, they're still, you know,
crazy expensive.
It's less than it was for other games for sure. I don't know if that's because Steph's out or what the reason is, but you know,
you have to look. You have to look that morning.
Right, exactly.
Because then people who are trying to sell them for a lot get desperate.
Yeah.
And they drop the prices because they're like, well, this can't just go unfilled, right?
Hey, it's a quick train ride in for me. I could do that
you got to look
easily,
like late morning.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
You might see me there in the stands. I'll definitely,
especially if you're just going to go by yourself and get one seat, those pop up.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it would be a bummer not to see the full roster, right? Not to see Steph and Wiggins and everybody else. But, hey, go watch the Jordan Poole show. And, you know, the Knicks are fun to watch right now. It could be a good game. So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And other injury news, and it's sad because he had been playing really, really well lately, is Anthony Davis. Back to street clothes Davis, unfortunately. Man, poor guy. And he had been playing, right? He had been stepping up and carrying the Lakers.
Yeah.
And they still have a losing record, but they have been winning a lot of games with him just taking over as the leader.
Right.
And he looked like the AD that we've wanted to see for a while.
Yeah.
Playing so well, and then he hurts his foot, right? Broken foot, or just hurt his foot?
I don't know about broken.
Yeah.
I've got to do some
and so he's out for at least a month.
That's not good.
That just sucks to see. He's kind of the what if superstar. Like, what if he could stay healthy? What would his career overall look like?
Yeah. Yeah, and they were getting to that point too. I think they were a couple games behind the Warriors, where it was like, I think they kind of smelled blood in the water on that, and looking like they could come into that play-in range, you know, or even jump up to 6, maybe something like that. They really got on a roll. But now, I mean,
the Lakers are currently 13-16, and Russell Westbrook has been playing a lot better coming off the bench finally.
Is he going to start now with AD out? Have you heard anything about that?
I assume so.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't think they'll have enough, because basically, like you said, they were just, AD was carrying them on these games. You know what I mean? So
it's going to be interesting to see if the Lakers decide to make some kind of trade, something crazy and big for future building. I'm not really sure. I mean, hard with LeBron, but I don't know.
I was going to say, wouldn't the biggest piece they have to trade be Anthony Davis? And
but what if you got back two really solid pieces that are more complementary to LeBron?
Yeah. I mean,
you know, they need a star guard on that team.
Yeah.
More so. I would say. So if you got two solid pieces back, like a serviceable big man and like a pretty solid wing type, you know, would they trade AD for a package like that?
It's Anthony Davis. I don't know if they'd be willing to pull the cord on that.
I know, but he's got the injury history, so that hurts his value quite a bit.
He does, you know? And that's also why I don't think teams would give up a package like you're talking about. I mean,
on the other hand,
players,
if they write it out, Westbrook's contract is done, and they have some money to play with in the offseason to do something creative for next year. Yeah, run it back with LeBron and AD, and you know, see what you can do with that $44 million or whatever it is coming off the books.
I think that's the route they're going to go. I think they're in it for the long haul, right? They when they paired those two guys up, you know, I think they were going to have them be there until they basically said they didn't want to. So
I think that's the plan. I think everyone knows this season's not going anywhere.
Yep. So, but I just hate seeing injuries, right? I'm not a Lakers guy. I mean, I think we all.
Yeah, you don't want to see anyone injured.
It's just, injuries suck, man. You know, when Curry got injured, I saw a lot of other teams, you know, people who are fans of other teams reaching out and being like, "Oh, that sucks," you know, because he's fun to watch, right? It's like one of the best players in the game. Same thing with Anthony Davis. Same thing with any of those guys. So
yeah, I don't want to see anybody in sports get hurt except Deshaun Watson. That's fine. He can tear his ACL right off, right? Have it pop out of his leg.
Exactly, all the damage he did. Oh my god.
Actually, not to go too far off track here, Deshaun Watson back for the Browns, playing like shit. So that's fun to watch too. Yeah, he's playing a lot worse than Jacoby Brissett was.
Wow.
You know, he's probably pretty rusty. He missed an entire season and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those massages didn't loosen him up?
Apparently not. Yeah, still rusty.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we should go into
on
the
that
NFL.
Note, should we jump to football in general? So
absolutely.
The Brock Purdy-led 49ers win again, this time in a hostile environment up in Seattle. I don't care how good or bad Seattle's team is. That's a tough place to win. And Seattle's good this year with Geno Smith. And he just went up there and He got the job done. He didn't just get the ball to his playmakers. He made some great throws once again. He was winging it, and it ended up being 21-13, but it wasn't that close. There was a couple goofy calls, where Bosa got called for roughing the passer when he basically went in and tackled the quarterback, Geno Smith.
Bad.
And it was a pick six.
Right.
That was taken away.
That was so bad. Oh,
I felt like was there someone from New York on the phone saying, we don't need this game to be over in the beginning of the second half. Throw a flag.
Right.
What else are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
And the only reason he sort of fell with some of his body weight on him is because coming down, he hit his own lineman and kind of veered back in front of Bosa.
It looked bad, but it had nothing to do with Bosa.
Had nothing to do. Yeah, right. It's not like he picked him up and drove him to the ground or something.
Clean
it was like
tackle.
he was trying to come down the side, and then the guy, Geno Smith, bounces off and comes under him a little bit. And even so, it's just like he just tackled him.
Yeah, there's been some terrible roughing penalties this year where it's not a penalty, right? I think one happened with Tom Brady earlier this year too.
You may no longer tackle the quarterback. You must gently rest the quarterback down and slide a pillow
guide
under
him
his
down.
helmet.
Right,
and
exactly.
Then maybe we won't call it.
It's a no fun league, man. I mean, and the fact that they review some of these, right, and still are not.
They don't like to admit they messed up.
Right. I mean, I understand that.
They really need to make roughing the passer a reviewable call. Now, I know they will screw it up anyway.
Right.
Like, remember when passing interference for one season was reviewable? And they were so stubborn, even though it was like obviously interference or obviously not interference.
They still wouldn't.
And they was like, the call on the field stands, and you were sitting there. Like, they completely sabotaged it to show, it doesn't work. See? It was only successful X number of times, X percentage of times. And it's like, that's because you were willingly just ignoring the replay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like at least if you instituted replay, they would have to show it, 10 times during that break, so you could see how terrible the calls they're making are. So,
that's probably why they don't want it challengeable.
Exactly. They're like, nah, they might show it once on the broadcast, but we'll move on. But that was horrible. Yeah, I forgot about that call until now.
Yeah, more official shenanigans yesterday as well. The Redskins were lined up in the red zone for, I think it was the go-ahead touchdown. And it's called back on a flag. And you go back in the replay, I believe it's on formation.
Mm-hmm.
And you go back to the replay, and the receiver who was called for the illegal formation, he actually lines up in the formation, looks over at the ref, and I think he gives like a thumbs up, like, good. And the ref goes, yep. And the play goes off. And the ref who gave him said, yep, threw us a flag.
Wow.
And you're like, what? you just nodded to him like, all good.
He's like, yeah, I'm going to give you a flag.
It's unbelievable.
Oh, no. Yeah, like you said, I think it's either they make a mistake and don't want to admit to making a mistake, right? Stubbornness. But I think a lot of them also, it's making the moment about them, which I hate. NBA refs do that all the time, too. It's kind of like...
NBA refs are way worse at it, actually.
Right.
By far.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it's, it's frustrating. I feel like, being a fan of the Warriors, we're always upset with the whistle that, Steph gets. Feels like he never gets what he should. And I'm sure other teams feel that way about their stars. So it's just something you got to work through.
So one of the other noteworthy games were the Minnesota Frauds, Vikings, the worst 10-3 team of all time with a losing point differential. That's how bad they are. I didn't know that. They just got killed by the Detroit Lions the week before. They were 10-3 as underdogs, and the Lions beat them up.
Wow.
And so they go to play Indianapolis, who, as we've talked about, Jeff Saturday is their coach. They're a train wreck. I mean, they're okay. Saturday's done mostly okay. But, I mean, they're not a good team. And Indianapolis is up 33-0 at halftime. And I was paying attention. I was like, there you go, Minnesota Frauds. There you go. And then I tune out. I go do something else. And I come back, and it's 36-36 in overtime. And then Minnesota wins the game. Biggest comeback in NFL history.
Wow.
Now, that's nice and all, but Minnesota still frauds. 11-3.
Still we're down. Right.
Yeah.
36 points.
You're down 33 to nothing at halftime to a not very good team.
Right.
Sadly, at the helm for Indy was Matt Ryan, who's now the king of the blown lead after the
Poor guy.
28-3.
Right?
Yeah, after the Atlanta in the Super Bowl, 28-3 lead. Now 33 net. Two of the biggest, choke jobs of all time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Wow, I forgot about that. That's right. That did make history as the biggest comeback of all time.
Yeah.
Wow. Whew. Yeah, Minnesota. Yeah. I think you're right. I think they're a bit of a, fake news. That record.
So they're 11-3, and the Niners are 11-3, and the Cowboys choked and are 10-4. So, I'm sorry, and of course the Eagles are 13-1, 12-1, 13-1.
A lot of people not believing them too.
Yeah,
so it's going to be interesting what the playoffs show.
The Eagles had a tough game against not a great opponent. They got it done, but I wasn't that impressed from what I saw. And I still have the Niners as the favorites in the NFC, even with their third string quarterback. I just think that defense is too good.
That defense, yeah. And if Brock can keep being mistake free, he had a few throws, a few times in Seattle where I would say more than his first couple starts, you could tell he the moment got to him a little bit, right? Which is understandable. I think the crowd and, it's like you said, it's tough to play in Seattle for even a seasoned quarterback.
Yeah.
So, the fact that he got that under his belt, still pulled out the win, still made the throws he had to when it counted, right? I think they are probably I would say the consensus to be the favorites with that defense. So.
And then in the AFC, interesting, Kansas City, maybe they just took Houston lightly, but it took them overtime to beat Houston. Mm-hmm. Houston's got the worst record in the league. Although they've been playing some tough games lately. So sometimes your record can be a little misleading because I think they have a couple close losses. Mm-hmm. I believe the Eagles had a tough time with them.
Yeah.
Or no, the Eagles had a tough time with Indy as well. Yeah. So that's the other thing is the reason I have the Niners as the favorites is they are mopping the floor with teams right now.
Right.
Just dominant.
Yeah.
Especially strangely since Purdy took over. I mean, actually they were mopping the floor with Jimmy G too and some teams like Arizona. They just crushed them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're hitting a stride. I would say that Purdy's taking advantage of it, and he's really slotting in really nicely. But it feels like they're getting healthier as a whole on both sides of the ball. And the way they're spreading the ball around right now, the running game's working also. It feels like they've hit a stride as a team.
Right.
So this is the time you want to do it.
But I don't think they have a chance for the 1 seed. The Eagles have a pretty easy schedule.
Yeah.
So the Eagles are going to finish 16-1.
Right.
Probably. Right. Unless there's not a threat and they rest guys in that last game. But the point is they could finish 16-1 if they want, if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't see.
And now with the new playoff format with more teams, only the 1 seed gets the bye.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But the 49ers are now, because they won the division, guaranteed to host their first playoff game.
Okay. I like that.
And frankly, I hope Minnesota sticks around and somehow pulls out a win and the Niners get to play them in the second round or something like that, because the Niners will mop the floor with
I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a quick question. Did you get a chance to watch the end of the Patriots and Raiders game?
Yeah, that's so crazy. One of the worst plays in NFL history.
Ever.
Do you know who I wish had been announcing that game? Mark Sanchez, who's an announcer now. He would have been like, that's way worse than the butt fumble.
The butt
way
fumble,
worse.
The butt fumble's gone.
Yeah. So,
man.
So the first, running, it's a tie game.
Yeah.
You don't pull out the laterals and all that when it's a tie game and you have the ball.
Yeah.
It was a good play down the side. And the first lateral back wasn't that bad.
It wasn't.
But then when
he's
running back,
a little dicey.
It was a little dicey,
yeah.
But then when the other guy's running back and then just chucks a pass across the field, like 20 yards backwards
to the middle lineman. I mean, he's
and then the funniest part of that play is he catches it, and then is it Mac Jones who's back there?
Yeah.
He completely stiff arms Jones and runs over him to the end zone to win the game.
Oh man.
And Belichick was just like shrugged, like he didn't call any of that. It was just a normal
just
play.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, just unbelievable. I actually friend of ours from high school, Walter, posted a video of the Spanish TV announcer doing the call. I think he's like the Raiders. Fun. Yeah, the Raiders Spanish TV announcer, and it was such a good call. He was just Raider touchdown. And then speaking Spanish into it as well, and they just get so hyped up, and I mean, as a Raiders fan, that had to feel great.
Fundos en el campo, solo presión de tres. Ramondre Stevenson con el acarreo. Y Stevenson sigue de pie. Avanza de la 45 a la 40, a la 35, a la 30. Lanza el pase hacia atrás con Jacoby Myers. Y los Patriotas ahora simplemente Chandler Jones intercepta el pase. Chandler Jones se mantiene de pie. Chandler Jones se va. Hasta la cocina. Touchdown. Chandler Jones lo hizo. Consiguió el balón con los Patriotas intentando lanzar pases laterales y los Raiders de la manera más improbable posible en la historia del fútbol americano han ganado este partido. ¡Wow! Lo veo y no lo creo.
Just such an improbable way for a game to end. Like I've seen some crazy endings, but like that's wild.
I read the stat that there have only been 2 games in the NFL in the last X number of years, a long time, where they've ended on plays that involve a lateral. And the Patriots are at the bad end of both of them. This one where they did the interception. The other one was, remember, Miami did that crazy lateral play.
That's right.
Right? To beat
that was
them.
Years back. Yeah.
A couple years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
So if Patriots
if
fans
a lateral happens,
laterals, no laterals of any type at all. We fear them.
That's unbelievable. Yeah. Oh man, crazy game.
AFC's still shaping up to be a pretty good fight, right?
Yeah, a lot of teams, a lot of parity, right? A lot of teams.
Bills 11-3, Dolphins now 8-6. Oh, that was another great game. The Saturday night Bills and Dolphins game when it was really good back and forth. The weather comes in the fourth, snow game. Oh, and really great game. Were they
throwing snowballs at the players?
Yes, they were throwing snowballs so much that the refs had to make an announcement that there would be a 15-yard penalty against the Bills because it's in Buffalo.
Yeah.
If it continued, and there was some stoppages and all that. It's not just snowballs. Some of them are like ice chunks too.
That'll do damage, man.
Yeah.
Buffalo's no joke, that weather up there. So
so that hurts the Dolphins. They're 8-6 now. And pretty much have to fight for the wild card. Bills are 11-3 on top of the division. Chiefs are 11-3. But the wild card is going to be a tough fight. Chargers are 8-6, same as Miami. Leading the North, you have the Bengals at 10-4, but you have the Ravens at 9-5. And then the AFC South is a train wreck with the Titans on top at 7-7. But there's going to be a good battle for those wild card spots in general in the AFC.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, where it all lines up, like you said, in the different divisions and stuff. But hey, you know what? Niners, NFC champs, and NFC West champs, can't be mad at it, right?
No.
I mean, especially like with so much uncertainty going into the year, 2 injuries to quarterbacks.
Can we just give Kyle Shanahan Coach of the Year? Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
First game, your starting quarterback goes down.
Right.
Then you bring the guy in who hasn't had the playbook yet because you thought you were going to trade him, Jimmy G.
He plays
a little
good,
rough
and then he
patch
goes
there,
down.
A little rough patch at the start.
Yeah.
He's playing great and goes down. You bring in Brock Purdy, and you just keep rolling. And I know they're a stacked team, but a lot of the great throws he's making are also beautifully designed plays by Shanahan. Right. That was amazing. The fake it one way, spin around, fake fake the other way, and then turn all of a sudden and throw it downfield to Kittle.
Yep.
That was a brilliant play call by Shanahan, but well executed by Purdy. But
he looked like
Shanahan gets a lot of credit.
For a 3.
Yeah, Shanahan gets a lot of credit, but he also kind of sometimes doesn't.
Right. No, I mean, I think the fans are really hard on him. Bay Area fans, they're used to, having successful
This Niners
teams
team was 3-4, and they are now 10-4, 7 straight wins.
Right. Absolutely. So, give Shanahan credit for sure.
Anything else in the NFL, or is that about cover it? I think for now.
I think we covered a good amount of it. Like you said, I think we just got to wait for things to shake out and see where they all land in the playoff standings.
Okay. Another topic is the baseball off season and free agency, and things are getting absolutely insane. The size of the contracts per year going up, the numbers are crazy, but that's not to be surprised by. It's going to keep going up, and it's going to keep going up in the future. The length of the contracts now is really getting to be something. Let me give you a little preview of some of the contracts signed this offseason. The Giants signed Carlos Correa, shortstop, 13 years, $350 million. Xander Bogaerts, 11 years, $280 million. Aaron Judge, 9 years, $360 million. Carlos Rodon, first pitcher on this list, I should add. Long pitcher contracts are far more dangerous.
Right.
6 years, $162 million.
Wow.
Brandon Nemo, 8 years, $162 million. And just signed over the weekend, Dansby Swanson by the Dodgers, 7 years, $177 million. It used to be, I mean, we had some in the last year or two as well, these longer contracts. 13 for Correa is the longest in history. You used to never see anything beyond like 7 years, other than occasional blips that happened, monster contracts. Mike Trout got a 10-year deal. Albert Pujols got a long deal that sure became a disaster for the Angels.
Right.
So the per year is a lot, but I will say on some of these deals, let's say Carlos Correa, his per year total in 8-9 years from now isn't going to look that crazy because it's going to keep going up. So it looks insane right now, but you're kind of getting some better value down the road. But for him, he gets the security of locking in a monster deal, done and done. And I think what we're going to see now, the strategy of some of these long contracts is it's great for the players. It's a risk for the team for sure, but it's also seeming to be, and this has been called out recently, a way for teams to get around some luxury tax issues.
You could structure it differently, right?
And you have it structured with some of it at guaranteed years later on, though, knowing that the cap is going to continue to go up.
Right.
And you throw it out ahead of time, and you can manipulate that. So I think what we're going to see, although it's going to be a major issue with a, contract bargaining agreement, at some point there might be a yearly cap imposed.
Cap on it,
no more than, I don't know what they would say to that, 8. I don't know if it would ever happen. They have been around a while. The Giants, this isn't the first time they've done it. They gave Buster Posey a 10-year deal a long time ago. People were like, 10 years? They had just won a World Series. They ended up winning 2 more during that contract.
Yeah.
And I think it worked out pretty well. So, and that's a catcher too. That's a catcher, which is a rough position on your body.
Yeah, he's an all-time great.
Yeah. So, it'll be interesting to see if this continues to go on as a trend. The long contracts for a pitcher seem crazy. Rodon, who was excellent for the Giants last year, did previous to that, we signed him on a 2-year deal with the second year being the player option, which of course he pitched great last year. So he opts out and gets his money. But giving those long contracts to pitchers is crazy. I think
absolutely
totally crazy.
Right.
And that's why you're starting to see with some of the older pitchers, they'll get big annual money, but they'll be like 2 years. Like we just saw with Verlander,
Right.
DeGrom just got a big deal too.
Yeah.
All MLB contracts are fully guaranteed.
Okay.
Just like in the NBA, it's really only the NFL where they can cut guys loose and not pay out the rest of the contract, which is kind of insane because the NFL, you're the most likely to get hurt. I hate that when guys get hurt and then they get cut.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
Yeah.
And the NFL makes the most money too. And the contracts aren't fully guaranteed. Like if any sport they should have fully guaranteed contracts, it's the NFL. And they're the one that don't.
Right. Yeah, it's just the 13 years. I don't know, something about that. Like so much can go wrong. Anything could go wrong. You know what I mean? And you're paying all that money out, guaranteed. it's a big risk. I mean, I understand they probably did that because there was probably other teams, trying to go after his services, and you throw a huge contract like that out there, maybe other teams didn't want to do it, but it's definitely a gamble, definitely a risk. So
yeah, I mean, to put that in perspective, my 8-year-old daughter, she will be a junior in college when his contract is up.
Right.
She's currently in the 3rd grade.
Yeah. So that's a long one.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I'm 43, so I will be 56 years old when that contract is up.
Yeah. I think I'm a year behind you. That's scary to think about. Wow.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, that's the market. And for some of these guys, and that's what you have to do. The Giants had to do that. Yeah. And, same deal with the big money for Judge.
Well, I was going to say,
originally the Yankees had offered Judge only $230 million before the season. And then they ended up paying $360 million. They're probably regretting not just offering him like $280 before the season started.
Yeah, right. Exactly. He probably
That's
felt
another one
with that. Yeah.
Correa will be 40 when it's over. Judge will be 40. Correa's a little younger, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Judge will be 40 when it's over.
Yeah.
Not a lot of 40-year-olds in baseball, although with all the nutrition and science and all that stuff, guys are lasting longer. We're seeing it in every sport.
Right. Yeah, you just don't want it to be, the guy is unplayable, right? Or the guy is, so broken down that he can't fulfill the end of that contract. 13 years is a ton of time. Like, it's unbelievable.
Well, like I said, the Albert Pujols contract was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, and that was only, 10 years?
Yeah,
was that
only
10 years, right? Well, only, but
to the point that they actually cut him at the end.
Wow.
And then he went to St. Louis, and what's painful about that? If you're an Angels fan, every single year of the 9 years, his OPS was lower than all of his other seasons prior to it.
Wow.
So he underperformed the entire contract. Then he goes back to St. Louis after they cut him loose,
and he was good again.
He wasn't good, but he was better. He posted a higher OPS this final season than he did his entire tenure with the Angels. That is rough. Poor Mike Trout. Mike Trout, one of the all-time great players, just wasting away in Anaheim.
Oof. Yeah.
I mean, it was his choice to sign that big contract.
It was. I would say he should come up the coast and
if you're
from the Giants,
if you're Ohtani, and they still haven't traded him or anything, and he's going to be a free agent after next year, which is interesting. You're seeing how Mike Trout has been wasted by that organization. Do you really want to stick around?
Right. Exactly.
The Angels should be smart, and they're not, and trade him and get some pieces, some youth.
Right. Because he'll leave for nothing.
Because he's going to leave for nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, if he's smart.
Wow. Man.
Let's see. Any other topics from last week? You know what? I got one. Brittney Griner released from Russian prison in a prisoner exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it took the U.S. giving up a notorious arms dealer. I don't know if this is true, but I thought I heard that this guy was the inspiration for that movie Lord of War with Nicolas Cage.
I think I heard that as well.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard. And the point is, a really bad dude we had to give up to get her out. But, you can't get too caught up in those details. We had to get her out of there. She was being used as a political pawn. So, may not be happy with the overall optics, but, the U.S. owes some responsibility to their citizens. And, it really sucks. And I know there's also some deserving prisoners, and that came up. They were trying to get in as part of the deal, but it didn't work out. I hope they aren't completely forgotten, although I fear they will be. And just sort
they're
of
not
left
as big of names, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
that's pretty unfortunate.
Yeah. No,
but I will say, in terms of letting this arms dealer go, obviously it's not good. But on the other hand, I guarantee you 5 guys filled his place while he was on the inside.
Right.
That stuff's happening
100%.
regardless.
Right.
He was just one of many doing that sort of things, those horrible things. But anyway, good to see her out. I mean, it was obviously the whole thing was a political nonsense. Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I think a lot of people missed that she wasn't charged for possession. She just had a couple of cartridges. She was charged for trafficking.
Right.
You know,
Like
she
you
didn't have
said.
enough to traffic. So that's
Yeah.
what was absurd about the whole thing. If she was just charged for possession, because it was stupid of her
Yeah.
to have had any cartridges. Like, you're flying internationally, you got to check your luggage and make sure you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if she had just been charged for possession and served 6 months, because that's the deal in the country, I would have shrugged and said, well, be more careful next time.
Right.
But when they trumped up the charges and they're saying
Yeah.
it's trafficking, then you're like, okay, this is a whole other deal.
Right. Yeah. It was a political joke, but
Should the U.S. just start arresting wealthy Russians in our country just on trumped up bullshit charges?
yeah.
So that we can get more political trades going? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe we should do that. I
Right.
mean, we've trampled over the rest of our constitution, so let's go for it.
Hey, make it happen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go political.
No, but it's good to see her back. You know, she I think did some interviews and things where she sounded really down, and I mean they were just basically giving her some of the worst conditions imaginable, and yeah, I don't know if she had to be there much longer or over a year or something like that. I think it just would have been really bad.
Yeah, those
Who knows
Russian
what
prisons are
it's
those
no
Russian
joke.
prisons are notorious.
Yeah,
for just
they're meant to
being
break you
horrible.
down, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank God she's home. Thank God for her wife, you know, her family being able to have her back here again. And yeah, it's good that that's over, because that was a long ordeal for sure. So
All right. Well, I think that about does it.
yeah, we got through a lot.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone, and please subscribe on whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple or any other format. We're on pretty much all of
Instagram.
them.
Yeah.
And
Excellent.
we'll be back probably later next week after the Christmas holiday. There's a lot of NBA and NFL games that should be fun to watch. So
Yeah.
we'll be back soon.